All right, so we're back again here with another video today. In this video, I'm going over my top 10 fragrances just overall that I have currently in my collection. So basically what I did with this list is 5 of the fragrances are going to be, Middle Eastern or, you could say inspired by fragrances basically. And then the other 5 are going to be high-end sort of niche as well as high-end designer fragrances as well. All right, so just to kind of get the list started here, I'm going to start the list off with what I would say is probably one of the best releases, just overall in terms of, any sort of fragrance this year, whether it be, designer or niche or, Middle Eastern fragrances. I think this is definitely one of the best releases this year. And this one is French Aventus Platine Blanc. So as you all know, this one is another one of those fragrances collaborated with French Avenue and Aromatics. And this fragrance is, I would say, really the only sort of like mojito style type of fragrance that you really need. Obviously there are other fragrances out there that are, sort of marketed as like kind of mojito style fragrances. Another one that I did pick up was this one here, Mojito Obsession by Gulf Orchid. To me, if you're looking for just a really sort of authentic mojito style, smelling scent that's, really sort of fresh and bright and minty, then I would say Platine Blanc, it basically shits all over, Mojito Obsession from Gulf Orchid. I'll have a video coming soon on this one. I wasn't that much of a fan of, the direction that this one goes in, but I absolutely love Platine Blanc. I really, really love, the really sort of like minty, citrusy type of smell that you get from this fragrance. Like I said, I kind of compare this, and smell. Like if I'm gonna kind of tell someone how this sort of smells, to me, it smells like a mixture of like Michelof's Gin Tonic and Xerjoff's Torino 21. Now, it's not necessarily supposed to be like a clone of either one of those fragrances, but it does definitely have like similarities to what both of those would kind of smell like if you were to layer them together. And this fragrance, man, is definitely, it's a summer fragrance that I intend to keep in my rotation for sure, man. It definitely, it has, I would say, average sort of longevity and performance. So I mean, I don't really get more than about 5 to 6 hours or so maximum of total longevity with this. And right after you kind of spray it, it does definitely sort of die down a little bit. But you can smell this fragrance pretty well for at least about the first hour and a half or so. And then at least on my skin, it definitely does dial back and sort of, kind of start to fade away after that, up until like that 5 to 6 hour mark. But overall, it's a very, very pleasant smell. I really don't see how anyone would dislike the way that this smells. And like I said, to me, overall, it is one of the best, fragrance releases that have come out this year for sure. So again, man, check out French Avenue's Platine Blanc. All right, so the next fragrance on the list, this one is a niche fragrance, and this one is Pacific Rock Moss from Goldfield and Banks. So this is a fragrance that, I had been wanting to get my nose on ever since I saw Demi Rawling, mention this fragrance years ago. And at that time, I definitely couldn't afford this fragrance, but also too, I don't think that this fragrance was as affordable as what it is now. So I was able to pick up this 100 ml from, I want to say I picked this up from Old Factory. I think I paid like around $109 or so for this 100 ml. I believe back when I first, heard about this fragrance, these Goldfield and Banks fragrances were still like well over $200. So, me picking up this fragrance was, kind of a long shot, when I first heard about it. But I am definitely grateful to have this fragrance now. And it's just, to me, it's like the perfect sort of like aquatic, oceanic, fresh, sort of summertime type of scent. I do think that this is strong enough that you could probably wear this one all year round, but I do think that this would definitely shine the most in like the spring and the summertime for sure, because of how fresh it comes across basically. For the most part, what this is, at least the way that it wears on my skin, is it comes across very sort of like ocean breezy, very sort of kind of like mossy or slightly sort of seaweedy. Like that's basically, those are the main things that I really kind of get from this, is like a really like cool ocean breeze, mixed with really kind of rough waves, seaweed, moss, a slight sort of sweetness from like some citruses as well in this fragrance. It just overall is one of my favorite scents in general. I do tend to really, I do intend to delve a little bit more into Goldfield and Banks as a house overall. I did, I liked Bohemian Lime as well, so I do have a bottle of that coming. I want to smell a few other of their fragrances like Silky Woods and Silky Woods Elixir, and maybe one or two other ones. I have smelled Ingenuous Ginger. That one I didn't necessarily want to pick up a bottle of because I already have fragrances that really, kind of smell similar to that. So that one didn't really appeal to me that much. But this is definitely my favorite one from the house that I've smelled so far, man. So definitely check this out. Performance on it is really, really good. 8+ hours, at least with this bottle that I have here. From what I understand is the newer bottles actually perform a lot better than what, some of the earlier bottles did. So performance on this is not a problem at all. And it gives me really good projection, at least, arm's length or more for about the first 2 hours, man. So again, check out Pacific Rock Moss from Goldfield and Banks. Next one on the list here, this is, one of the most hyped fragrances, really, you could say, of this year. And it deserves it for sure, in my opinion. This one is French Avenue's Vulcan Feu, or Feu, however you pronounce it. This is their take on God of Fire from Stefan Humbert Lucas. And even though, in my opinion, God of Fire is a little bit better, at least for me anyway, in terms of, just how the blend is on God of Fire, this on its own is still extremely good. It's extremely good. And honestly, this is actually, it's starting to change a little bit. I feel like the mango in this fragrance, compared to like how it smelled when I first got it, definitely seems to be getting a little bit more richer and stronger in this than what it initially was, when I first got it. Also, I mentioned in several other videos before about this video or about this fragrance, how it kind of had like this slightly sort of cheaper lemony type of smell, in the background of the fragrance. I feel like now that's smoothing out and kind of going away a little bit. So this is getting better with, maturation for sure. And again, I think when you just smell this fragrance on its own, and you, for instance, have never smelled God of Fire, this is a very, very good fragrance, man. It's basically, it's a really, really bright sort of mango. I would say it's like a fizzy mango drink is the type of vibe that you get with this particular fragrance. So like a tropical drink with mango, some other citruses and fruits. The fizziness really kind of comes from the ginger. The ginger is toned up in this fragrance compared to what it is in, God of Fire, which I actually do like a lot, from this fragrance. I do like that extra added touch of ginger in this. And then basically after like a couple of hours or so, the fruitiness, it is still there, but it does kind of, it dials back a little bit, and then you're left with like a really warm, sort of ambery, woody, slightly fruity type of scent. Is basically what you get from this. This is also a fragrance that it is going to last all day long, like all day long. Even when I first got this was lasting easily over like, 8 to 10 hours or so. So this is really, really strong stuff, projects really well for, I would say, at least like the first 2.5+ hours or so. And like I said, the longevity on this is easily over 8 to 10. So, about maybe 6 sprays or so of this fragrance will last you all day long. You'll get, whiffs of it all day long for the most part. And again, this is a very, very good scent if you're looking for like a really, uplifting, bright, fizzy kind of tropical drink type of scent. All right. So again, this one is Vulcan Feu from Fragrance, or from French Avenue. Next one on the list, this one is from Louis Vuitton, and this is Louis Vuitton's Imagination. So Imagination, man, I really just don't think that you can go wrong with this scent, really, at any time. I always kind of tend to wear this one mainly in like warmer weather, so around this time of the year for sure. But this is still a fragrance that does still work really all year round. It works in the fall, it works in the spring. I even wear it in the winter time, and it still works. It still lasts in the winter. Now, definitely when I wear this in the winter time, it doesn't project as well, for sure, I can say that. But it does definitely still last a long time on me. This scent easily for me, no matter really what season I wear it, this scent on me easily lasts, over 8 to 10 hours. So, that is one thing that I really love about this scent is, yeah, it is very expensive, and it seems like every time I go to the Louis Vuitton website, they're just like raising their prices on these fragrances. So, I mean, when I bought this fragrance, these 100 ml Louis Vuittons were going for like $330, I believe. Now I think they're up to like, it's either $345 or $350, something like that for 100 ml. And that's really, really expensive, especially considering the fact that you can't get Louis Vuitton fragrances from any sort of discounter. Really, the only way that you can possibly, maybe save some money on these fragrances are buying them, secondhand from somebody else. But in my opinion, I do think that a lot of these Louis Vuitton fragrances, even though, yes, they do get a lot of hype, I do think that the price that you do pay for them, for a lot of them, it is worth it, especially if you do like the scent. I do think that it is worth it to just go out and buy the original scent and not necessarily, kind of just rely on like a lot of the inspired fragrances. Now, I do have an inspired fragrance of a Louis Vuitton fragrance on this list that I think is really, really exceptional. But, for the most part, a lot of these, interpretations of Louis Vuitton scents just don't 100% capture every, facet of these fragrances. And so I think, to really get the full experience with each one of these, you really kind of just have to buy the original fragrance. This is, to me, it's just one of the best scent profiles, at least for me and my taste. I really do like tea scents. I really love fresh scents. I love citrus, based scents. And obviously I like scents that last and perform. So that really kind of takes care of everything that I would like in a scent for the most part. It's very kind of soapy and clean. It's citrusy. It has that, sort of tea note in it, as well as, some of those spices. It's slightly kind of ambery and woody. It just does a lot of things well, in my opinion. And I think, like I said, this to me is kind of like the new sort of Aventus, pretty much, in my opinion. And I think you could maybe say that this is slightly better than Aventus for the simple fact that this doesn't suffer from like batch variation and, reformulation and stuff like that, like this doesn't suffer from that. Basically, at least to my knowledge anyway, anytime you buy a bottle of Imagination, it's going to smell the exact same as what somebody else's bottle did, you know, who bought it 2 years ago. So again, man, I really enjoy this scent a lot. It's definitely one of my favorite. Again, check out Louis Vuitton's Imagination. Next one on the list, this is an inspired fragrance from Fragrance World that I think is hands down better than the original fragrance that it's inspired by. This one is Posh Sirius from Fragrance World. So this is Fragrance World's take on Parfums de Marly Sedley. And, you know, like I've mentioned, you know, in several other videos before, this to me just does Sedley so much better than what Sedley does. In terms of, you know, definitely in terms of the performance, this projects way better. It definitely lasts a lot longer than what Sedley does. And there are some slight sort of tweaks and changes to this scent as compared to Sedley that I also really welcome a lot, man. This definitely amps up the, I believe it's the mint and the lavender, I believe, are what are, you know, sort of amped up a little bit more in this fragrance. So, I mean, it doesn't completely change the scent profile. This definitely still smells like Sedley in the air, and even when you smell it up close, but it just smells like a much stronger, you know, more sort of beast mode interpretation or version of Sedley. And it's a shame because it's like Sedley, yes, Sedley smells amazing, but I just don't think for the price that you pay for Sedley, I don't think it's worth it to pay that and, you know, get the type of performance that you get from a fragrance like Sedley. Now, this fragrance, I don't know if it's discontinued or not. It hasn't been available in probably like 2 years now. So, you know, I don't know if Fragrance World or French Avenue more than likely is going to re-release this and make a slightly more, I guess, higher quality version of it. But at least this version, this Posh Sirius version that I bought a couple of years ago, this is definitely, you know, one of my favorite scents that I have in my collection. Absolutely. And this is definitely, like, I would, if I came across a box of like 50 bottles of this and a box of 50 bottles of Parfums de Marly's Sedley, I would absolutely take the box of Posh Sirius, because this to me just overall is a better scent in general than what Sedley is. Performance wise on this, easily I get over 8 hours with this of total longevity, and the projection on this I would say is at least about 2 to 2.5 times greater than what it is with Sedley. So I get well past the arm's length with this. This is definitely louder than Sedley for sure, and it's a fragrance that I normally smell all day long whenever I smell it, man. So again, definitely check out Posh Sirius from Fragrance World. All right, so the next one on the list, this one is a fragrance that I've kind of had a love-hate relationship with this fragrance. I love the scent profile in general, but I have always hated the way that this fragrance has performed on my skin, especially considering how expensive this fragrance is. However, I was able to basically get a batch that actually really works really well on my skin, and this one is Creed's Aventus. All right, so I've had, this is like my third full bottle of Aventus, I want to say. I think, yeah, this is like my third full, no, this isn't my third one. This is at least my fourth full bottle of Aventus, I believe. And I've smelled, you know, I've tried several other samples of Aventus, going all the way back to like 2016 batches. Like I've, you know, tried all of those, and I never really could get more than like at least probably 2 or 3 hours of just total longevity on my skin with this fragrance. And that was, you know, one of the reasons why I just kind of stayed away from this fragrance, even when, You know, I won these fragrances in raffles, you know, on Facebook, which that's how I got this bottle as well. Uh, Whenever I wore those bottles, they didn't last. They just did not last. And I mean, I've had 2018 bottles that I've won in raffles, 2019 bottles, maybe even like a 2021 bottle. I'm not sure, but all of those other fragrances, you know, that I tried on me of Creed Aventus, they just didn't last. This one though, this, for whatever reason, this batch is like a magical batch on my skin. I believe this batch is a 19 PO1 batch. And this one, I mean, the first day that I sprayed this on, it lasted easily over 8 hours on my skin. And I'm talking about to the point where like I could detect it the entire time. So, you know, I don't think necessarily that the other batches that I wore, I was going nose blind to, because I would go to the area where I sprayed it and I couldn't smell anything. You know, I feel like if you go nose blind to something, you know, maybe if you sprayed on your chest, okay, but like if you have some sprayed on your arm somewhere or your wrist, you should still be able to go to that and still be able to pick it up in some sort of way. And I wasn't able to do that at all with other, you know, batches that I've tried. But this one really, really seems to work. This batch, I can also kind of, you know, definitely say for sure that like batch variation is a real thing. It's not like a myth or anything like that with this fragrance, because for sure this fragrance, or this batch anyway, of Creed Aventus that I have, definitely smells a little bit different from any other batch that I've had. This is very, very vanilla heavy from what I can tell. It still smells like Creed Aventus for sure, but to me the vanilla in this is like dialed way up, a lot higher than, you know, any other batch that I've smelled. You still get, you know, that smoky pineapple opening mixed with probably, I would say, a little bit of apple as well. And, you know, you still get the birch, you get all of that. But to me, the birch is definitely toned down a little bit in this fragrance, and the vanilla is toned way up in this fragrance. And it doesn't smell bad at all, man. I really, really like this one. I think the last batch that I had, I bought it from a guy on Facebook called Frag Heads. He's like in the Aventus addicts groups and Frag addicts groups. He sold me, it was a F batch. I think it was like F001608 or something like that. That one had like very kind of average longevity on me as well, but it smelled a little bit different. I feel like that one was a lot more kind of like musky and fruity, and definitely it didn't have really that much sort of vanilla in it. So I believe the extra sort of added vanilla that this particular batch has, it adds to the base of the fragrance, and it definitely makes it last a lot longer on my skin, man. So I might even try to get another bottle of this just to wear and just to kind of keep this one for like maybe like special occasions or something, because I really don't want to run through this bottle. I love the scent, but I just hate how most other batches have performed on me, man. So again, man, definitely check out Creed Aventus, man, especially if you can find a batch that really performs well on your skin. All right, next one on the list, this is another inspired fragrance. This one, this time is from French Avenue again, and this is French Avenue's Veneno. Veneno is, man, this is a really, really, I really love this scent. You get that, you know, kind of like smoky apple shisha or apple hookah type of smell, mixed with, you know, a little bit of licorice, some spices, a little bit of booze as well. Definitely has a slightly kind of boozy feel to it. Smells kind of like, you know, you're drinking cognac inside of like a hookah bar or a hookah lounge, something like that. That's the type of vibe that you get from this. You know, you're dressed kind of like in all black. You're dressed, I would say, not necessarily casually. You know, you definitely have on like a dress shirt, some black dress pants, dress shoes, nice watch on, something like that, you know, while smoking hookah and drinking some cognac. Like, that's the type of vibe really that I get from this fragrance. And this is really, it's perfect, I would say, for mainly like the winter and fall time for sure. But I mean, I think you could wear this one still all year round, especially if you don't live somewhere super hot like I do here in Las Vegas. I think if you live anywhere where, you know, it gets down into those kind of cooler, like 60 and 70, or really 60 and 50s at night, you know, where you live in the summertime, I think this could easily be worn, you know, at night in the summertime if you live in an area like that. So this is really, really good, man. It's extremely close to the original. There are some slight kind of tweaks to this compared to the original. I definitely feel like the original is heavier on that licorice note, which I don't necessarily care for. So that's definitely why I really, really enjoy this one, you know, more than I do by Killian Smoking Hot. But this fragrance, man, for the price that you pay and the quality that you get with this is really, really good, man. Performance on it is also really, really good. Easily over 8 hours of longevity is what I get with this. And very, very good projection, at least over arm's length for about the first 2 hours. All right. So again, man, definitely check out Veneno from French Avenue. Next one on the list, this is a fragrance that I had tried, you know, several different interpretations of, and I just kind of felt like none of them did the fragrance like completely, like 100%. So I felt like I needed to just go out and get the real thing. This one is from Le Labo, and this is Le Labo's Another 13. So Another 13, man, this fragrance I really, really enjoy a lot. Very, very unisex for sure. Maybe some people would consider this one slightly feminine leaning. It definitely has like a very kind of soft, but you know, really, really juicy pear at the top of the fragrance when you first spray it on. But then it definitely comes across very sort of like musky, and I would say it's a very easy scent to go nose blind to, is what I'll definitely say for sure with this fragrance. I've noticed that for sure with this fragrance, whereas I didn't necessarily get that from any other interpretation of this fragrance that I've worn. This fragrance, when you wear it, you can tell that it's still there. Like if you spray it somewhere on your arm or something like that, and you go and smell your arm maybe 7 hours later, you can definitely still smell it, and it still smells pretty strong. But just you as the wearer in general, you only kind of get like wafts of it kind of here and there when you spray it on, especially if you spray it heavy. But this is definitely a strong scent for sure. There's a lot of like aroma chemicals and stuff like that in this fragrance that really make this scent what it is. I really enjoy the way that this is done. Like I said, it's a very kind of like, like a fruity floral type of scent, fruity floral musky type of scent for the most part. But really, really beautiful, super unisex, long lasting, super compliment getting for sure. Like I don't see how anyone would smell this and not like it, especially, you know, if they're smelling it in the air off of you, you know, they're catching like a whiff of your sillage. I don't see how anyone would dislike this one. And it's definitely one that you can wear all year round, really, for any occasion, I think. For me anyway, I feel like this is more of like a casual type of scent, at least for me. But I do still think that this is absolutely still a scent that you could wear in more of like a upper scale, you know, type of situation where maybe you're more dressed up or you're at some sort of event or something like that. I think this would still be a really, really good choice if you're going to be around a bunch of people, because this is going to be a very inoffensive, you know, and again, very compliment getting scent. It's just not going to be necessarily the absolute most masculine scent. So if you're looking for something that is attention grabbing and, you know, is trying to assert some sort of, you know, dominance or something like that, or really come across masculine, then I think something like Aventus would be better, or probably even, you know, Imagination. But, you know, if you're just wanting to smell good and clean for a really long time, another 13 I think is, you know, definitely the scent to go with. Performance on this is really good. Like I mentioned, projection on it is pretty good. You're gonna get over arm's length with it easily for like the first 2 hours or so. You as the wearer though, it's gonna be pretty hard for you to perceive that. Especially if you spray a lot of sprays, like maybe on your chest or in front of your nose, anywhere. You know, you are going to go nose blind to this, but it is still definitely there. And this easily lasts, you know, over 8 to 10 hours for sure. So again, man, definitely check out another 13 from Le Labo. All right, next one on the list. This one is from Banadir fragrance. This fragrance is actually, from what I can see, the one fragrance that is currently sold out on the Banadir fragrance website. And this is number 10 from Banadir. So this is Banadir's interpretation of Louis Vuitton's Pacific Chill. And like I mentioned in, you know, the previous video where I kind of went over this fragrance, this was a part of the first batch of fragrances that Salim actually sent me. And this fragrance was one of the ones that, like, it blew me away how much better this was than any other Pacific Chill, you know, interpretation that I've smelled for sure. This absolutely comes the closest. This absolutely smells the highest quality. And I mean, this is just, for this to be, you know, one of his first fragrances that he's kind of put out, this is really, really good, man. Like I said, this is definitely, it's better than the Maison Alhambra. It's better than the Alexandria version. It's better than the Luciano version. I haven't smelled the Rayhan version, so I can't say, you know, how close this comes to that. But I mean, compared to every other Pacific Chill interpretation that I've smelled, this is, you know, hands down the best one. Like I mentioned, when I sprayed this side by side, the Pacific Chill, the initial opening, the fruitiness that you get from Pacific Chill is definitely, it's a little bit more dialed up for probably the first 5 to 10 minutes. So the fragrance does come across a little bit more fruitier and sweeter in the Pacific Chill than what it does in number 10. But basically what you get with number 10 is Pacific Chill like 5 to 10 minutes after you sprayed it on and then forward is what you get with this. And after like 5 to 10 minutes or so of Pacific Chill drying down, when you smell it side by side with this, it almost smells identical almost. Like I said, this and the Absolute Aventus interpretation, I would say so far are definitely my favorite ones from Banadir. Like this definitely, like I was at some point in time kind of considering maybe getting a bottle of Pacific Chill. With this, I think I don't need a bottle of Pacific Chill. And then, you know, same thing with Absolute Aventus. You know, I had the Joe Milano version, the Game of Spades High Roller, as well as the Armaf Club de Nuit Pre-Show. Those were definitely, they were decent, but you know, they weren't the exact same as what Absolute Aventus was. The Banadir version of Absolute Aventus, outside of maybe like the first couple of minutes of the fragrance, is basically, it's almost, you know, spot on really to Absolute Aventus. So I really don't think I need a bottle of that either. I'm definitely pretty excited to see what Salim does in terms of, you know, releasing other interpretations that, you know, he doesn't currently have on the site right now. Because again, I think for these to be, you know, some of his first creations, these are really, really, really good. Like, these are better. They're better than a lot of the interpretations that I had smelled from like houses like Alexandria fragrances, like when they first started. Because I had gotten hip to them pretty early on. Like, I want to say I probably started buying Alexandria like around 2017 or so. And so I've seen them kind of grow and get better and better over time. But I feel like Salim and, you know, his fragrances with these Banadir fragrances, these are just, they're already like way past that, I think. And so I can only see how these can only get, you know, even better than what they are right now, man. So this is really good, man. If you're a fan of Pacific Chill, I would say absolutely pick this one up. Performance on it is pretty good. I get like around 7+ hours or so of total longevity, and the projection on it is also very good, at least an arm's length or so, for about the first 1.5 to 2 hours or so. So again, man, check out number 10 from Banadir. All right, and then the last one on the list, this one is the last niche fragrance, and this one is from Nishane, and this is Nishane's Colognise. So this is the original Colognise, all right? This fragrance, this was a complete blind buy. I had never sampled this fragrance. I had only just kind of heard about it and just, you know, looked at the note breakdown and figured this should be something that I should like. And then, I mean, also one of the reasons why I went ahead and picked this fragrance up was because I was able to pick this one up from Aura Fragrance for like $64. So I felt like, you know, I've spent more on clones or, you know, inspired fragrances than what I did with this. So for this to be a niche fragrance, it's 100 ml. I felt like I couldn't really go wrong with this. And I really do feel like that is the case with this fragrance. This is a very, and this is what I don't necessarily get, I guess, with how this fragrance was necessarily described. This fragrance was always kind of described to me as like this very sort of like citrus heavy type of scent. And there are definitely some citruses that you get in the opening of this fragrance. I want to say like probably bergamot and lemon are like the main ones that you get in the opening of this fragrance. But this fragrance is more floral heavy, in my opinion, than what it is citrus heavy. This definitely smells like a lot of like white florals. It does have kind of like a green sort of, you know, feel to it as well, while again also still having a fresh kind of citrusy type of undertone to it. But this definitely on my skin, it comes across a lot more kind of floral and slightly sort of powdery than what it does, you know, like citrusy. But it definitely, it still comes across as a very kind of fresh, clean, very inoffensive, easy to wear type of scent for sure. Like this is definitely like white t-shirt, white shorts, you know, fresh white Air Force Ones type of vibe. Like that's definitely the type of vibe that I get from this. And this is definitely like a spring and summertime type of scent for sure, in my opinion. Now I do also have the Colognise, or the Hesperide Colognise, the one that comes in like the slightly kind of greenish colored juice. That one is also pretty good as well. But I just feel like this one, the original, is a little bit better in my opinion. The Hesperide one, that one to me, it smells like a slightly smoother and I would say less projecting version of something like Tom Ford's Mandarino di Amalfi. That's definitely kind of what, you know, that one gives me in terms of vibes go. But this to me is, I would say, kind of in the realm of something like Neroli Portofino from Tom Ford. Definitely not exactly the same at all, but I think, you know, if you like scents like Neroli Portofino, you'll definitely like this one as well. Definitely not as sharp as Neroli Portofino. This does perform a lot better than Neroli Portofino does, but it is kind of in that same sort of vein in terms of scent, profile, in my opinion. Performance on this is actually pretty decent. I get like around 7 hours or so of total longevity with this fragrance, and the projection on it is kind of average, I would say, for about the first hour and a half. So for about the first hour and a half, I get a little bit less than an arm's length of projection, and then it does become closer to the skin for the rest of the scent. But overall, man, like I said, this is a very fresh, clean, inoffensive, slightly citrusy, but more kind of white floral type of scent, in my opinion, man. Really, really good. So again, check out Nichane's Colognise. All right, and so that is the list, man. That is the list of my top 10 scents that I currently have in my collection. Like I said, have 5 of these are inspired fragrances, or Middle Eastern style fragrances, or from Middle Eastern houses anyway, and then 5 of them are niche or high-end designer fragrances. So definitely let me know what you all thought about this list. Let me know if you have any or all of these fragrances, and if so, are any or all of these fragrances in your top list of fragrances within your collection? Definitely let me know in the comments. Also, I have links in the description to where you can pick up all of these fragrances. And if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And again, that's Jamar from Vegas Scents. I'll see you on the next video.